Admiral Zexathara stood on the command bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, watching the blue-green planet rotate slowly beneath them. Her 6 arms moved with practiced efficiency across the holographic displays, each manipulation sending orders to the massive fleet surrounding Earth. 200 ships of the Calaxian Empire hung in space like sleeping predators, their weapons charged and ready. "Report," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 star systems. Commander Yiltak, her chief tactical officer, approached with the reverent posture expected when addressing a member of the Imperial Council. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge's crimson lighting as he spoke. "Admiral, we have completed our scanning of the human homeworld. The preliminary data is concerning." Zexathara's primary eyes narrowed while her secondary pair continued monitoring the tactical displays. "Concerning how, Commander?" "The humans appear to possess no unified planetary defense grid. Their military technology is centuries behind our most basic equipment. Their largest weapons are chemical-based projectiles that could barely scratch our hull plating." Yiltak paused, mandibles clicking nervously. "Yet they show no signs of surrender preparation." This gave the Admiral pause. In her 3-century military career, she had overseen the subjugation of dozens of species. The pattern was always the same: initial defiance followed by desperate attempts at negotiation and finally, submission when faced with overwhelming force. The humans, however, seem to be following none of these predictable stages. "Have they responded to our demands for unconditional surrender?" she asked. "Yes, Admiral." The response came from multiple human governments simultaneously. Yiltak activated a holographic display showing Earth's continental masses. Rather than coordinating a unified response through their strongest nation-states as expected, every major population center sent individual messages. "Show me." The main display shifted to show communication logs. Hundreds of responses scrolled past, each tagged with geographic coordinates. Zexathara selected one at random from a region the humans called North America. A human face appeared on screen. Bipedal, mammalian, with only 2 eyes and no visible natural armor. The creature was making a strange rhythmic noise that caused its facial features to contort in what the Empire's xenobiologists had identified as an emotional display called laughter. "Greetings, space friends," the human said in accented galactic standard. "We got your message about surrender and stuff." "That's really cute. Did you guys practice that speech? Because it sounded super serious and scary. We're impressed." Zexathara's tertiary arms twitched involuntarily. No species had ever called an Imperial ultimatum cute before. The human continued. "So here's the thing, and please don't take this personally, but we're going to have to decline your generous offer of becoming your slaves. We've tried the whole being ruled by tyrants thing before, and it really didn't work out for the tyrants. Ask Napoleon, or Hitler, or that one really angry Austrian guy. Actually, don't ask them because they're dead now, but you get the idea." Commander Yiltak paused the recording. "Admiral, every human response follows similar patterns. They acknowledge our superior military capabilities but seem to find our threats amusing." Amusing? The word felt foreign in Zexathara's mouth. In galactic politics, military threats were serious affairs that determined the fate of entire civilizations. "There's more, Admiral." Yiltak activated another recording. This one from a region called Australia. A different human appeared, this one with lighter skin coloration and wearing what appeared to be a primitive hat. "G'day, alien mates. Heard you want to take over our planet." "That's fair dinkum hilarious, that is. See, the thing about us Aussies is that everything on our continent has been trying to kill us for about 60,000 years. And we're still here. We've got spiders that can kill you in 15 minutes, snakes that can drop you in 30 seconds, and jellyfish that are basically floating death. And that's just the wildlife." The human gestured broadly. "You want to invade Australia?" "Mate, Australia has been invaded by the British, the Japanese tried during the war, and even our own government has declared war on emus. Guess who won? The bloody emus. So unless your spaceships can handle drop bears and funnel web spiders, you might want to reconsider." Zexathara dismissed the recording with a sharp gesture. "Are they unaware of our capability for orbital bombardment?" "No, Admiral. Our intelligence suggests they understand perfectly well that we could sterilize their planet from orbit." Yiltak brought up another communication, this one from Europe. However, their responses indicate they believe this would be counterproductive. The European human's message was brief but puzzling. If you're planning to destroy our planet to rule it, you might want to check your logic. That's like burning down a house because you want to live in it. Also, we've done some math on your energy requirements for maintaining a galactic empire, and honestly, it doesn't add up. Have you considered a more sustainable business model? Business model? Zexithera's voice rose an octave. We are the Calaxian Empire. We do not operate on business models. Perhaps that's their point, Admiral, Yiltak suggested carefully. The humans seem to view galactic conquest as economically inefficient. Show me more responses. The next recording came from a region called Russia. The human was wrapped in thick clothing and stood in what appeared to be a frozen wasteland. Hello, space comrades. We have received your demands for surrender. This is very funny to us. You see, in Russia we have saying, Russia cannot be defeated, only delayed. We have been invaded by Mongols, Napoleon, Hitler, and very angry generals with nuclear weapons. All of these invasions had one thing in common. The human paused dramatically. They all failed spectacularly. Now we understand you have advanced technology and superior firepower. This is good. When you fail to conquer Russia, and you will fail at least, it will be interesting failure instead of boring failure like all the others. Zexithera found herself staring at the display long after the message ended. In her experience, threatened species either cowered in terror or raged in desperate fury. The humans were doing neither. They seemed genuinely entertained by the situation. Admiral, Yiltak said quietly, there's something else. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity across human space installations. What kind of activity? They appear to be preparing for a celebration. A celebration? Yes, Admiral. Large gatherings, increased food production, festive decorations. It's as if they view our arrival as some sort of holiday. Zexithera stood in silence, her mind racing through tactical scenarios she had never encountered. Every conquered species in the Empire's history had followed predictable patterns of behavior. The humans were following no pattern at all. Admiral, her communications officer called out, we're receiving a general broadcast from Earth. It appears to be directed at our entire fleet. Put it through. The main display showed what appeared to be a hastily assembled group of humans standing in front of a large banner reading, Welcome to Earth. The human in the center stepped forward. Greetings, Calaxian Empire. We're really excited you came all this way to visit. We've prepared a little something to show our appreciation for your effort. We hope you enjoy the fireworks show. The transmission ended abruptly, and Admiral Zexithera felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. The fireworks show began exactly 12 minutes after the human broadcast ended. Admiral Zexithera watched in growing bewilderment as Earth's surface erupted in thousands of bright flashes, but not the kind she expected. Instead of defensive missile launches or the desperate activation of hidden weapons systems, she was witnessing the largest coordinated pyrotechnic display in recorded galactic history. Admiral, Lieutenant Crixon called from the sensor station, his voice tight with confusion. I'm reading massive energy discharges across every human continent, but none of them are weapon signatures. Elaborate. They appear to be deliberately creating colorful explosions in their atmosphere for aesthetic purposes. The young officer's mandibles clicked uncertainly. The energy expenditure is enormous but entirely non-threatening. Through the observation ports, the Calaxian fleet could see Earth's night side sparkling like a jeweled sphere. Massive firework displays painted the darkness in brilliant reds, blues, and golds, but it wasn't just the scale that unsettled Zexithera. It was the timing. No rational species would waste resources on celebrations when facing annihilation. Commander Yiltak approached with a data tablet. Admiral, we're receiving follow-up communications from various human settlements. They appear to be inviting us to join their celebration. Show me. The first message came from a massive human city called New York. The sender stood atop what humans called a skyscraper, with a glittering metropolis spread behind him. Hey there, space visitors. Hope you're enjoying the show. Look, we know you came here expecting the usual doom and gloom, but that's not really our style. We figured, since you traveled all this way, we should at least throw you a proper welcome party. The human gestured to the city below. We've got food, music, dancing, and enough alcohol to float your battleships. Seriously, we've been planning this since your ships showed up on our radar 3 days ago. The whole planet's involved. Paris is doing a light show that'll make your plasma cannons look like birthday candles. Tokyo's organizing the biggest street festival in human history. And don't even get me started on what Rio de Janeiro has planned. Another message arrived from London, where a dignified-looking human in formal attire stood before an ornate building. Greetings, Calaxian Empire. Her Majesty's government would like to formally invite your fleet to attend our unexpected alien invasion festival, now in its first year. We've prepared traditional Earth hospitality, including afternoon tea, guided tours of our historical sites, and a cricket match. Be warned, the cricket match may last several days, but we assure you it's less painful than galactic conquest and considerably more civilized. Zexathara's primary hands gripped the command console. Are they mocking us? I don't believe so, Admiral, Yiltak replied after consulting his cultural analysis tablet. Human behavioral patterns suggest genuine enthusiasm. They appear to be treating this as a first contact celebration, rather than an invasion. A third message arrived from Mumbai, where a human woman stood surrounded by millions of others, all moving in synchronized patterns to rhythmic sounds. Namaste, space friends. Mumbai welcomes you with the largest dance party ever organized on Earth. We have 17 million people dancing right now, and we're just getting started. Please come down and dance with us. We promise our moves are better than our military strategy. The celebration messages continued flooding in from every corner of Earth. São Paulo invited them to a football tournament. Sydney offered surfing lessons. Cairo promised a tour of ancient pyramids with explanations of how we built massive monuments with primitive technology, while you guys apparently needed spaceships to visit us. But it was the message from a small town called Roswell that made Admiral Zexathara pause. An elderly human stood in front of a primitive museum. Well. Took you long enough to show up. We've been expecting you folks since 1947. Got your landing site all picked out and everything. Fair warning, though. Our last visitors left behind some technology. And let's just say we've had 78 years to figure out how it works. The human winked at the camera. Course, could be we're bluffing. Could be we're not. You're welcome to find out. Either way, we've got coffee ready and the world's best alien-themed gift shop. Admiral, the communications officer called. We're receiving a priority message from Earth's primary government center, location designated Washington, D.C. The screen showed a human in elaborate formal dress, standing in an ornate room. I am the President of the United States, speaking on behalf of Earth's United Nations. We've received your demands for surrender, and after careful consideration by our brightest leaders, scientists, and military strategists, we have prepared our official response. Zexathara leaned forward. Finally, a serious governmental response. We respectfully decline your offer of conquest, the President continued, and counter with an invitation to the first-ever Intergalactic Peace and Friendship Festival. We've prepared cultural exchanges, technology demonstrations, and a comprehensive introduction to Earth's greatest export. Really good food. The human smiled. See, here's the thing about humans. We've spent our entire history fighting each other over resources, territory, and ideology. We've gotten really good at war, but we've also learned something important. Cooperation is way more fun and significantly more profitable than conquest. We understand your empire spans multiple star systems, which is genuinely impressive. But consider this. Managing all that territory through force must be exhausting. Have you tried friendship? It requires a lot less energy, and the profit margins are incredible. Admiral Zexathara muted the transmission and turned to her officers. Analysis. Are the humans displaying signs of mass psychosis? Negative, Admiral, replied Dr. Veltar, the fleet's chief xenopsychologist. Their behavioral patterns are consistent with a species that has undergone extensive intraspecies conflict and developed advanced diplomatic coping mechanisms. They appear to be treating our invasion fleet as a diplomatic opportunity, but they must understand they cannot resist us militarily. Oh, they understand perfectly, Admiral. That's what makes this so remarkable. Dr. Veltar activated her analysis display. Humans appear to have developed a cultural response to overwhelming threats that involves humor, celebration, and strategic redefinition of conflict parameters. Meaning? They're not fighting the war you want to fight, Admiral. They're fighting a completely different war according to rules you don't understand. Commander Yiltak interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving multiple communications from other human population centers. They appear to be competing with each other over who can provide the best hospitality. The displays showed dozens of simultaneous broadcasts. Humans from every continent were advertising their local attractions, ancient monuments, natural wonders, cultural festivals, and something they called barbecue competitions that seemed to involve ritual food preparation with religious intensity. One particularly enthusiastic message came from Bavaria, where humans in traditional clothing stood in front of massive tents. "Greetings, space travelers. Welcome to Oktoberfest. We have beer, sausages, and traditional alpine hospitality. Resistance is futile, not because we will fight you, but because our beer is irresistible. We challenge your strongest warriors to a traditional drinking contest." Another arrived from New Orleans, where humans danced in the streets wearing elaborate masks and colorful clothing. "Y'all come down to New Orleans. We've been throwing parties for 300 years and we're just getting warmed up. We've got jazz music, Creole cooking, and enough bourbon to make friends with anybody. Fair warning, though. Once you taste our jambalaya, you'll never want to leave." Admiral Zexathara realized she was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Every species the Empire had conquered had responded to threats with either submission or violent resistance. The humans were responding with invitations. "Admiral," her tactical officer called urgently, "we have a problem. The human celebration is generating massive electromagnetic interference. Their pyrotechnic displays are affecting our sensor arrays." "Are they doing this deliberately?" "Unknown, Admiral. However, several human settlements are now launching primitive rockets. Not weapons, they appear to be delivering party supplies to orbital space stations." "Party supplies?" "Yes, Admiral. Food, decorations, and what humans classify as entertainment materials. They seem to be extending their celebration into space." On the main display, Admiral Zexathara watched small human spacecraft ferry loads of supplies to their primitive orbital installations. The space stations were lighting up with the same festive illuminations covering Earth's surface. "Admiral," Commander Yiltik said quietly, "the humans are turning their entire solar system into a celebration. This is beyond anything in our tactical manuals." Admiral Zexathara stared at Earth, watching the planet twinkle with 10 billion lights of welcome, and for the first time in her long military career, she had absolutely no idea what to do next. Admiral Zexathara had called an emergency meeting of her senior staff in the war room of the Eternal Dominion. The chamber's blood-red lighting cast ominous shadows on the walls, lined with trophies from conquered worlds. But today, those symbols of Imperial might felt strangely inadequate. "Report on human activities," she commanded, settling into her command throne. Commander Yiltek activated the central hologram, showing real-time surveillance of Earth. "Admiral, the situation has escalated beyond our projections. The humans have transformed their planet into what they call a global party. Every major population center is now participating in coordinated festivities." The hologram zoomed in on various locations. In Moscow, humans were performing traditional dances in massive formations while snow fell around them like glitter. In Delhi, millions moved through the streets in colorful processions carrying enormous decorative sculptures. In São Paulo, the entire city appeared to be one continuous street festival stretching to the horizon. "But it's not just Earth," Yiltak continued. "They've activated every space-capable vessel in their fleet, not for defense, but to deliver what they call care packages to our ships." "Care packages?" Lieutenant Crickson stepped forward. "Admiral, 17 human spacecraft have approached our outer perimeter. Our weapon systems have locked onto them multiple times, but they continue approaching on direct courses. They're broadcasting messages. Show me." The main display activated to show a small human spacecraft, barely larger than a shuttle, approaching the massive Calaxian destroyer Death's Edge. A human face appeared on screen, a middle-aged female with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes. "Hello there, beautiful starship. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Friendship. We're delivering welcome gifts to your crew. We've got fresh-baked cookies, coffee from 7 different continents, music collections, and books translated into 17 languages, including what we hope is Calaxian. Please don't shoot us, we're really bad at dodging, and these cookies took all night to make." Admiral Zexathara watched in disbelief as the tiny human ship pulled alongside the kilometer-long destroyer and began deploying small cargo pods. "Are our ships accepting these gifts?" "Yes, Admiral," Yiltek admitted reluctantly. Captain Rexton of Death's Edge reports that the humans sent detailed instructions for safely handling Earth food products, along with cultural explanation documents. His crew has already sampled something called chocolate chip cookies and requests permission to establish formal diplomatic contact. Diplomatic contact? Zexthara's voice rose. We are an invasion fleet. The humans don't seem to recognize that distinction, Admiral. Dr. Veltar, the xenopsychologist, cleared her throat. Admiral, I've been analyzing human behavioral patterns. Their response appears to be based on sophisticated understanding of psychological warfare principles we've never encountered. Explain. They're waging war against our assumptions, Admiral. Every aspect of human behavior contradicts our expectations for how conquest scenarios should proceed. They've effectively neutralized our psychological advantage by refusing to acknowledge that a psychological advantage exists. The doctor activated her analysis display. Observe their tactical approach. Instead of showing fear, they demonstrate curiosity. Instead of preparing defenses, they prepare hospitality. Instead of unifying under a single leadership structure, they maintain independence while coordinating voluntary cooperation. It's unprecedented, but they cannot seriously believe they can defeat our fleet with cookies and music. I don't think they're trying to defeat us, Admiral, Dr. Veltar replied. I think they're trying to make us irrelevant. Before Zexthara could respond, her communications officer interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving a general broadcast from Earth. It appears to be addressing our entire fleet directly. Put it through. The display showed a human standing in front of what appeared to be a massive gathering of other humans from multiple continents. The diversity was remarkable. Different skin colors, clothing styles, and decorative modifications all gathered in apparent harmony. Greetings, warriors of the Calaxian Empire. This is Dr. Maria Santos speaking for Earth's Xenological Welcome Committee. We've been monitoring your communications, and we understand there may be some confusion about why you've come to our solar system. The human smiled warmly. We realize you may have traveled here expecting to find a primitive species suitable for conquest. We appreciate the compliment. It shows you think we're worth conquering, which is honestly pretty flattering. Murmurs of confused translation rippled through the Calaxian bridge crew. However, Dr. Santos continued, we'd like to propose an alternative that might be more beneficial for everyone involved. Instead of conquest, how about commerce? Instead of subjugation, how about collaboration? And instead of making us your slaves, how about making us your friends? The human gestured to the crowd behind her. You see, we've done some research on your empire. Impressive coverage, by the way. 17 star systems is nothing to sneeze at. But we noticed something interesting in your expansion patterns. You conquer worlds, strip their resources, impose your culture, and maintain control through military force. That must be incredibly expensive. The logistics alone must be staggering. Transport costs, military maintenance, resistance suppression, administrative overhead. And that's assuming everything goes smoothly, which history suggests it rarely does. Dr. Santos pulled up a holographic display showing mathematical calculations. We've run some numbers, and honestly, the economics of galactic conquest don't add up. The cost-to-benefit ratio is terrible, especially when you factor in long-term resistance, cultural integration expenses, and the energy requirements for maintaining control across interstellar distances. Admiral Zexthara found herself actually listening to the mathematical analysis. The humans' calculations were crude but not entirely wrong. So here's our counterproposal, Dr. Santos continued. What if instead of ruling us, you worked with us? Earth has developed some unique technologies and cultural approaches that might benefit your empire. We're really good at problem-solving, adaptation, and creative thinking. Plus, we're absolutely fantastic at logistics. We've been moving people and resources around our planet for thousands of years. The human's presentation shifted to show images of human achievements, massive cities, transportation networks, and communication systems. We've also got something your empire seems to be missing: sustainable economic models. We've learned through trial and error that cooperation generates more wealth than conquest, and partnership is more stable than domination. Consider this. Instead of spending your resources conquering us, you could invest those same resources in partnership agreements. We'll share our innovations, you share yours, and everybody wins. Plus, we throw better victory celebrations than anyone in the galaxy, and we've got the fireworks budget to prove it. The broadcast concluded with thousands of humans waving enthusiastically. at the camera while shouting what the translator identified as friendly greetings. In hundreds of different languages, Admiral Zexathera sat in silence as her bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, Commander Yiltek spoke carefully. Admiral, the human proposal has merit from a resource allocation perspective. You're suggesting we negotiate with a species we came here to conquer? I'm suggesting, Admiral, that the humans have already changed the nature of this encounter. We can continue following conquest protocols with a species that refuses to be conquered, or we can adapt our approach to the actual situation. Lieutenant Crixon added hesitantly. Admiral, several ship captains are reporting that their crews are requesting permission to visit Earth. The human care packages have generated significant curiosity about human culture. Our own crews want to visit the planet we came here to subjugate? Yes, Admiral. Apparently, human chocolate has extraordinary effects on Calaxian metabolism, and their music demonstrates harmonic patterns our entertainment specialists find fascinating. Admiral Zexathera realized that somewhere in the last few hours, her invasion fleet had begun transforming into something unprecedented. A first contact mission. The humans had somehow weaponized hospitality itself, turning her military operation into a cultural exchange. Admiral, her communications officer called. Personal message for you from the human leadership. It's marked as urgent diplomatic correspondence. Zexathera hesitated, then accepted the transmission. A single human appeared on screen, elderly with white hair and eyes that seemed to contain both wisdom and mischief. Admiral Zexathera, I presume? I'm Benjamin Harper, Secretary General of the United Nations. I understand you're in a bit of a unique situation, and I wanted to offer you something that might help. The human leaned forward conspiratorially. How would you like to be remembered as the admiral who discovered the most valuable alliance in galactic history, instead of the one who tried to conquer a planet full of crazy people who fight back with friendship? The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zexathera staring at a blank screen and contemplating the most important decision of her career. Admiral Zexathera stood alone in her private quarters, staring at the personal communication device that hadn't stopped blinking for the past hour. 27 messages from the Imperial High Command, each more urgent than the last, demanding status reports on the human subjugation. She hadn't answered any of them. Instead, she found herself reviewing footage from her ship's external cameras showing the most bizarre siege in galactic history. Human vessels continued arriving at her fleet's perimeter, each one delivering supplies, entertainment, and increasingly sophisticated gifts. Her own crew members had begun requesting extended shore leave on a planet they were supposed to be conquering. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. This time she accepted it immediately. Secretary General Harper appeared on her private screen, sitting in what appeared to be a comfortable office rather than a military command center. Behind him, she could see humans moving about their daily business without apparent concern for the massive alien fleet hanging in their sky. Admiral, thank you for accepting my call. I imagine you're under considerable pressure from your superiors to produce results. Zexathera's mandibles clicked involuntarily. How had the human guessed her exact situation? I have a proposition that might solve both of our problems, Harper continued. What if we staged a surrender ceremony? Staged? Hear me out. You need to show your empire that you've successfully completed your mission. We need to avoid becoming enslaved. But what if the solution isn't military at all? Harper activated a holographic display showing various documents. We've studied your empire's historical patterns, Admiral. Every conquered species becomes a resource extraction point and military recruitment source. But what if we offered something more valuable than resources or soldiers? What could be more valuable than an entire planet? Information, innovation, economic expansion. Harper smiled. Admiral, your empire has been conquering worlds for centuries, but has it been growing? Really growing? The question caught Zexathera off guard. She'd never considered the distinction between expansion and growth. From what we can determine, the Calaxian Empire controls 17 star systems through military force, maintains that control through constant resource expenditure, and expands through warfare that costs more than the conquered territories can possibly generate. You're not growing an empire, Admiral. You're maintaining an incredibly expensive military occupation across multiple star systems. Harper brought up financial projections that made Zexathera's secondary eyes widen. Our economists estimate that your empire's military expenditures outweigh territorial profits by a factor of 12 to 1. You're operating at a massive loss. That's impossible. The empire has endured for over 1,000 years. Oh, we believe you. But consider this. What happens when a profitable business model encounters an unprofitable one in direct competition? Before Zexithera could respond, Harper continued. Here's our proposal. Instead of conquering Earth, the Calaxian Empire establishes the first interstellar trade partnership in galactic history. Earth becomes your economic ally rather than your military conquest. The human-activated new displays showing complex trade projections. We provide technological innovation, cultural exchange, and economic consulting. You provide interstellar transportation, advanced materials, and access to galactic markets. Both sides profit enormously. And what prevents you from betraying such an alliance? Simple economics, Admiral. Betraying profitable partnerships is bad business. Maintaining mutually beneficial relationships is good business. We've learned this through several thousand years of trial and error. Harper leaned forward. But here's the brilliant part. You present this to your empire as the ultimate conquest. You haven't just captured Earth's resources. You've captured Earth's economic expertise. You've acquired consultants who can help optimize the profitability of your entire empire. Zexithera found herself actually considering the proposal. The mathematics were compelling, but more importantly, the humans had demonstrated strategic thinking that surpassed anything in imperial military doctrine. Your empire's current model conquers planets. Our model conquers markets. Which do you think generates more sustainable wealth? Another chime indicated an urgent message from her bridge. Zexithera reluctantly accepted it. Admiral, Commander Yiltuk's voice was tight with concern. We have a situation. Captain Rexton of Death's Edge reports that his crew has been invited to participate in something called a cultural exchange program on Earth. Half his crew has volunteered. Volunteered for what? To visit human settlements, Admiral. The humans are offering guided tours, educational programs, and what they call hands-on learning experiences. Captain Rexton says his engineering staff is particularly interested in human problem-solving methodologies. Zexithera closed the transmission and returned her attention to Harper, who was smiling knowingly. Admiral, your officers are already beginning to understand what we're offering. This isn't about surrender or conquest anymore. This is about evolution. Evolution? Your empire represents the old model. Grow through force, maintain through fear, profit through extraction. It works, but it's not efficient and it's not sustainable. Earth represents something new. Grow through cooperation. Maintain through mutual benefit, profit through innovation. Harper activated another display showing what appeared to be human historical data. Admiral, we've tried the conquest model. For most of our history, stronger nations conquered weaker ones, imposed their will, and extracted resources. The results were predictable. Constant warfare, economic inefficiency, and eventual collapse when maintenance costs exceeded extraction profits. What changed? We learned that cooperation generates more wealth than conquest. A trading partner is infinitely more valuable than a conquered territory, because trading partners actively contribute to mutual prosperity. Conquered territories just drain resources. The human gestured to the space beyond his office windows. Everything you see on Earth exists because we learned to cooperate. Our cities, our technologies, our economic systems, they all developed through voluntary collaboration rather than forced submission. Zexithera was beginning to understand why her tactical manuals had no protocols for this situation. The humans weren't fighting a military war at all. They were proposing a fundamental reorganization of galactic civilization itself. Admiral, Harper said quietly, I'm going to share something with you that might surprise you. We know about the other species in your empire. What do you mean? We've been monitoring your communication since your fleet arrived. We know about the rebellions on Kepler 442b, the resistance movements in the Centauri system, and the economic problems plaguing your colonial administrations. Zexithera's blood ran cold. Those were classified Imperial intelligence reports. Admiral, what if I told you we could solve those problems? Not through military intervention, but through economic restructuring. What if instead of suppressing rebellions, you could make them unnecessary by making Imperial membership profitable for everyone involved? The humans' proposal was becoming clearer, and it was far more radical than simple trade agreements. You're suggesting we restructure the entire imperial economic model. I'm suggesting you evolve from an empire to a commonwealth, from military conquest to economic partnership, from forced submission to voluntary collaboration. Harper stood up, and Zexathara could see Earth through his office windows. A planet that should have been surrendering in terror, but instead sparkled with celebration. Admiral, you came here to conquer a primitive world. Instead, you've discovered a species that could help you transform galactic civilization itself. The question is, are you going to shoot the messengers or are you going to listen to the message? The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zexathara alone with the most dangerous idea she'd ever encountered. What if the humans were right? The emergency meeting had been called by Admiral Zexathara, but she wasn't the one doing most of the talking. Captain Rexton of the Death's Edge stood at the center of the war room, his usual military bearing replaced by something that could only be described as enthusiasm. Admiral, the human efficiency models are revolutionary, Rexton said, gesturing at holographic displays showing production statistics. In 6 hours of observation, I witnessed manufacturing processes that exceed our imperial standards by factors I previously thought impossible. Commander Yiltak leaned forward. Elaborate, Captain. The humans demonstrated something they called just-in-time manufacturing. Instead of maintaining massive resource stockpiles like our imperial facilities, they coordinate production with consumption in real time. The resource savings are extraordinary. Zexathara studied the data flowing across her displays. The numbers were indeed impressive. What else did your team observe? Their logistics networks are beyond anything in imperial doctrine, Admiral. They move goods across their entire planet, using integrated systems that require minimal military oversight. More importantly, they've achieved this through cooperation between competing organizations. Competing organizations that cooperate? Dr. Veltar looked puzzled. How is that possible? Captain Rexton activated new displays showing human commercial networks. They've developed something called market economics, Mir, where competition actually improves cooperation. Organizations compete to provide better services which benefits everyone involved. It's counterintuitive but demonstrably effective. Admiral Zexathara watched the data streams with growing fascination. The humans had somehow built a civilization where competition strengthened rather than weakened overall efficiency. Admiral, Lieutenant Crixon interrupted. We're receiving another transmission from Earth. This one is marked as educational. Materials, show me. The main display activated, to show a human standing in what appeared to be a massive automated facility. Machines moved with coordinated precision while humans supervised complex operations with minimal apparent effort. Greetings, Admiral Zexathara. I'm Dr. Jennifer Wu, Director of Manufacturing Innovation for the Pacific Trade Consortium. We understand you might be interested in learning about human production methodologies. The human gestured to the bustling facility behind her. This factory produces advanced electronics for global distribution. As you can see, we've automated most manual labor while maintaining human oversight for creative problem-solving and quality assurance. Dr. Wu walked through the facility as she spoke. The key innovation isn't the automation itself. It's the integration of human creativity with machine efficiency. Our workers aren't just laborers. They're innovators who continuously improve the systems they operate. But here's what might interest you most. Admiral, this entire facility was built through voluntary cooperation between 17 different organizations from 11 different nations, none of which are under centralized military control. Zexathara found herself leaning forward. How is that possible? Dr. Wu smiled as if she'd heard the question before. Mutual profit motive, Admiral. Every organization involved benefits from the success of this facility, so everyone has incentive to ensure it operates efficiently. Self-interest and cooperation aren't opposites. They're the same thing when properly aligned. The human-activated holographic displays showing complex financial projections. This facility generates more wealth in 1 year than most of your conquered territories produce in a decade. And it does so without requiring any military maintenance costs. Captain Rexton spoke up from his position in the war room. Admiral, the humans allowed our engineering teams to examine their production protocols. The efficiency improvements we could implement across Imperial facilities would be substantial. How substantial? Conservative estimates suggest production increases of 300%, with resource consumption decreases of 60%. The profit margins would exceed anything in Imperial history. Dr. Veltar activated her analysis displays. Admiral, I've been studying human organizational psychology. They've developed something unprecedented. Large-scale cooperation without hierarchical control systems. Explain. Human organizations operate through voluntary association rather than forced compliance. Individuals contribute to group efforts because they benefit personally from group success. It eliminates the enforcement costs that consume so much Imperial resources. Admiral Zexathera studied the comparative data. Imperial facilities required massive security and administrative overhead to maintain worker compliance. Human facilities seemed to operate with minimal supervision because workers were motivated by profit sharing rather than fear of punishment. Admiral, her communications officer announced. Personal transmission from Secretary General Harper. Put it through. Harper appeared on screen, this time standing in what appeared to be a massive urban center bustling with activity. Admiral, I hope you found Dr. Wu's presentation informative. I wanted to show you something else that might interest you. The human gestured to the city around him. This is Singapore, one of our smaller city-states. Population 5.9 million. Annual economic output, 457 billion in your currency units. Zexthera's mandibles clicked involuntarily. The numbers were staggering. Singapore has no natural resources, Admiral. No military conquests. No enslaved populations. No extracted wealth from conquered territories. Everything you see exists because of voluntary economic cooperation between free individuals. Harper began walking through the city as he spoke. The wealth you see here was generated through trade, innovation, and what we call human capital development. Instead of forcing people to work, we educated them. Instead of extracting resources from them, we invested resources in them. The camera followed Harper through bustling markets, advanced research facilities, and residential areas where humans appeared prosperous and content. The return on investment is extraordinary, Admiral. Educated, motivated workers produce exponentially more wealth than enslaved laborers. Free markets generate more innovation than controlled economies. Voluntary cooperation creates more prosperity than forced compliance. Harper stopped in what appeared to be a technology development center, where humans worked with advanced equipment. Admiral, what if I told you we could help you implement similar systems across your entire empire? Not just on Earth, but on every world under Imperial control? Every world? Every world, Admiral. The same principles that created Singapore's prosperity could transform Kepler 442b's rebellion into Kepler 442b's renaissance. The same methodologies that ended Earth's resource wars could end the Centauri resistance movements. Zexthera realized Harper was proposing something far beyond trade agreements. He was offering to transform the fundamental nature of Imperial civilization. Admiral, Harper continued, your empire controls 17 star systems through military force that costs more than those systems produce. But what if those same 17 systems voluntarily contributed to Imperial prosperity? Because Imperial membership made them wealthier than independence. The human smiled with what appeared to be genuine warmth. What if instead of maintaining an empire through conquest, you built a commonwealth through cooperation? What if instead of ruling subjects you led partners? And what would Earth gain from such an arrangement? Access to galactic markets, Admiral. Interstellar transportation networks. Advanced materials and technologies. Most importantly, we'd gain something humans value more than anything else. New challenges to solve and new frontiers to explore. Harper gestured to the stars visible above the city. We've explored every corner of our own planet, Admiral. We've solved most of our local problems. We're ready for bigger challenges, greater innovations, and wider horizons. In other words, Admiral, we need you as much as you could benefit from us. That's what makes this a partnership instead of a conquest. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zexthera staring at economic projections that suggested the humans weren't just offering an alternative to conquest. They were offering something better than conquest had ever been. Commander. Yiltak spoke quietly. Admiral, if these projections are accurate, implementing human economic models across the Empire could increase total Imperial wealth by several thousand %. Several thousand %? Yes, Admiral. And eliminate most military maintenance costs simultaneously. Admiral Zexthera realized she was no longer commanding an invasion fleet. Somehow, without a single shot being fired, she had become the leader of the most important diplomatic mission in galactic history. The question was, did she have the courage to see it through? Admiral Zexathara had been avoiding the inevitable communication with Imperial High Command for 18 hours. Now, as she stood in the secure communication chamber of the Eternal Dominion, she knew the delay would only make the conversation more difficult. The holographic transmitter activated, and Supreme Commander Kethvar materialized before her in all his imposing glory. Admiral Zexathara, the Supreme Commander's voice carried the cold authority that had dominated galactic politics for 3 centuries. Your status reports have been inadequate. Explain the delay in human subjugation. Supreme Commander, the situation on Earth has evolved beyond our initial tactical projections. Evolved how? Kethvar's 4 eyes narrowed to threatening slits. Are the humans resisting? Have they demonstrated unexpected military capabilities? No, Supreme Commander. They have demonstrated unexpected diplomatic capabilities. Silence filled the communication chamber. In the Empire's 1,000-year history, no conquered species had ever been described as diplomatically capable. Elaborate immediately. Admiral. Zexathara activated her prepared presentation, knowing her career and possibly her life depended on the next few minutes. Supreme Commander, the humans have proposed an alternative to traditional conquest protocols that could revolutionize Imperial operations. The holographic display showed comparative economic projections between conquest and partnership models. Their preliminary analysis suggests that cooperative trade partnerships could generate substantially more wealth than territorial extraction. Are you suggesting we negotiate with primitives? Supreme Commander, the humans are not primitive. Their economic models demonstrate sophistication that exceeds Imperial efficiency standards in multiple categories. Zexathara activated detailed productivity analyses from Captain Rexton's industrial surveys. Human manufacturing processes achieve resource efficiency rates 300% above Imperial standards while maintaining higher quality outputs. Supreme Commander Kethvar studied the data with growing skepticism. These numbers are impossible. I thought so as well, Supreme Commander. I dispatched verification teams to confirm the data independently. The results are consistent, even if accurate. Efficient manufacturing does not constitute grounds for abandoning conquest protocols. Supreme Commander, there's more. Zexathara activated projections showing empire-wide economic modeling. The humans have offered to implement their efficiency improvements across all Imperial territories. The projected wealth increases are extraordinary. The financial projections filled the holographic space between them. Supreme Commander, Kethvar's expression shifted from skepticism to intense calculation as he processed the numbers. These projections assume the humans would voluntarily share their methodologies. Yes, Supreme Commander, in exchange for trade partnership status rather than conquered territory classification. And you believe they would honor such agreements? Supreme Commander, human economic models are based on mutual benefit rather than hierarchical control. They profit when their partners profit, which creates self-enforcing compliance mechanisms. Kethvar was silent for several minutes, studying the economic data. Admiral, even if these projections are accurate, the Imperial Council would never approve abandoning conquest protocols for trade agreements. Supreme Commander, what if we presented it differently? Meaning? Zexathara activated her most carefully prepared presentation. What if we reported that we had discovered the most valuable conquest in Imperial history? Not just a planet, but an entirely new model for Imperial expansion? Continue. Supreme Commander, traditional conquest acquires territory and resources. But what if we could acquire knowledge and capabilities that multiplied the value of every existing Imperial holding? The holographic display shifted to show potential applications across all 17 Imperial systems. Human economic models could transform rebellious territories into profitable partners, reduce military maintenance costs, and increase overall Imperial wealth by factors we've never achieved through conquest alone. Supreme Commander Kethvar's interest was clearly growing. You're suggesting we acquire human capabilities rather than human territories. I'm suggesting we acquire both, Supreme Commander, but through methods that make the humans voluntary contributors to Imperial prosperity, rather than reluctant subjects requiring constant military oversight. And the humans would agree to this? They've already agreed, Supreme Commander. They consider it mutually beneficial rather than submission. Kethvar leaned forward. Show me their formal surrender documents. Supreme Commander, they haven't surrendered. They've applied for Imperial Partnership status. Applied? Zexthera activated recordings of human leadership communications. The humans have formally requested inclusion in what they call the Calaxian Commonwealth, a voluntary association of worlds that contribute to mutual prosperity through cooperative trade and shared innovation. They want to join the Empire voluntarily. They want to transform the Empire into something more profitable than the Empire has ever been, Supreme Commander. They're offering to make Imperial membership so beneficial that no world would ever want independence. Supreme Commander Kethvar studied the projections in silence. Finally he spoke. Admiral, these proposals represent fundamental changes to Imperial doctrine. Such decisions require full Council approval. I understand, Supreme Commander. However, the humans have requested the opportunity to present their proposals directly to the Imperial Council. Directly? They've offered to send a delegation to the Imperial capital to demonstrate their economic models and present detailed implementation plans. Send primitive aliens to the Imperial capital? Send economic consultants to the Imperial capital, Supreme Commander. Consultants who could potentially solve every administrative problem the Empire currently faces. Kethvar's expression shifted as he considered the implications. The Empire did indeed face significant administrative challenges across its conquered territories. Admiral, you understand that if these human proposals prove ineffective, you will be held personally responsible for the failure. I understand, Supreme Commander. However, if these proposals prove effective, the Empire could achieve prosperity levels beyond anything in galactic history. And if the humans are deceiving us, Supreme Commander, the humans have already demonstrated their capabilities. We've observed their facilities, analyzed their methodologies, and confirmed their results. The deception would require them to have somehow fabricated an entire planetary civilization just to mislead us, which would be the most elaborate military deception in galactic history. Or, Supreme Commander, we've encountered the most advanced civilization in galactic history, and they want to share their advancement with us rather than fight us. Supreme Commander Kethvar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight that suggested momentous decisions being made. Admiral Zexthera, you will escort a human delegation to the Imperial capital. You will present their proposals to the full Council, and if their models prove as effective as projected, you will oversee the implementation of the first Imperial Economic Partnership in galactic history. And if the Council rejects their proposals, then you will proceed with standard conquest protocols. And we will never speak of economic partnerships again. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zexthera alone with the realization that she had just committed the Empire to the most radical experiment in its 1,000-year history. She opened a communication channel to Earth. Secretary General Harper, this is Admiral Zexthera. The Imperial Council has agreed to receive your delegation. I hope your economic models are as revolutionary as you claim, because if they're not, this will be the shortest partnership in galactic history. Harper's response came through immediately. Admiral, prepare to be amazed. And tell your council to bring calculators. They're going to need them. For the first time since arriving at Earth, Admiral Zexthera found herself smiling. The Imperial Council chamber had never hosted an alien delegation before. For 1,000 years, the massive crystalline hall had been the exclusive domain of Calaxian leadership, where conquest decisions were made and territorial expansions were planned. Today it held representatives from 17 star systems, 5 supreme commanders, and 3 humans who looked remarkably calm considering they were about to propose restructuring galactic civilization. Admiral Zexthera stood at attention as Secretary General Harper, Dr. Jennifer Wu, and economist Dr. Ahmed Okafor were escorted to the presentation platform. The humans carried simple portable devices and wore modest clothing that contrasted sharply with the elaborate ceremonial armor surrounding them. Supreme Commander Kethvar called the session to order. The Imperial Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. You may present your proposals. Harper stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Honored members of the Imperial Council, we thank you for this unprecedented opportunity. We come not as conquered subjects, but as potential partners who believe we can help the Calaxian Empire achieve prosperity beyond anything in galactic history. Murmurs rippled through the assembled council members. No alien had ever addressed them as equals. Dr. Wu activated a holographic display showing economic projections spanning all Imperial territories. Council members, we've analyzed your current economic model across all 17 star systems. While impressive in scope, the model operates at a significant net loss when maintenance costs are properly calculated. The display showed detailed breakdowns of military expenditures, administrative overhead, and resistance suppression costs versus actual territorial profits. Your conquest model requires approximately 12 units of investment for every unit of extracted profit. Dr. Okafor continued. This is economically unsustainable long-term, which explains the increasing frequency of rebellions and administrative difficulties across Imperial space. Supreme Commander Yexadan of the Outer Territories spoke sharply. Are you suggesting our empire is failing? We're suggesting your empire has outgrown its current business model, Harper replied smoothly. You've been extraordinarily successful at military conquest. Now it's time to be extraordinarily successful at economic prosperity. Dr. Wu activated new projections showing the human alternative. Council members, observe the economic output of Earth's voluntary cooperative networks compared to your conquered territories. The numbers were staggering. Earth's consensual economic partnerships generated wealth at rates that dwarfed Imperial extraction operations. The key insight, Harper explained, is that motivated partners contribute exponentially more than coerced subjects. When beings profit from cooperation, they innovate constantly to improve cooperative outcomes. Supreme Commander Velthar leaned forward. And you claim you can implement these results across our territories? We've already begun, Supreme Commander, Dr. Okafor said, activating real-time data streams. With Admiral Zexithera's permission, we've been conducting pilot programs on 3 Imperial worlds. The results exceed our projections. The display showed productivity increases and cost reductions from Kepler 442b, Centauri Prime, and Vega Station. The improvements were dramatic. The rebellious populations on Kepler 442b, Harper noted, ceased resistance activities entirely once offered profit-sharing partnerships. They're now contributing to Imperial prosperity voluntarily, because Imperial prosperity has become their prosperity. Council member Rathek from Internal Security stood abruptly. You've interfered with Imperial operations without authorization. Council member Rathek, Admiral Zexthera interjected. The pilot programs were conducted within established protocols for testing new administrative methods. The results have been remarkable. Supreme Commander Keithvar studied the streaming data. These territories are reporting production increases of over 400%. Yes, Supreme Commander, Dr. Wu confirmed. And military maintenance costs have dropped to nearly zero because voluntary cooperation doesn't require enforcement. More importantly, Harper added, the populations are requesting expansion of the partnership programs. They want more Imperial involvement, not less, because Imperial involvement now benefits them directly. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The humans had somehow transformed the Empire's most problematic territories into its most productive ones. Supreme Commander Kethvar finally spoke. What exactly are you proposing? Harper stepped forward. Supreme Commander, we propose transforming the Calaxian Empire into the Calaxian Commonwealth, a voluntary association of worlds that contribute to mutual prosperity through cooperative trade, shared innovation, and coordinated development. Instead of ruling subjects, you would lead partners. Instead of extracting resources, you would coordinate investments. Instead of suppressing resistance, you would channel motivation. Dr. Okafor activated comprehensive projections. Council members implementing this model across all Imperial territories would increase total wealth generation by an estimated 1,500% while reducing administrative costs by 80%. 1,500%? Supreme Commander Yexdan's voice carried disbelief. Conservative estimate, Supreme Commander. Our projections assume moderate cooperation levels. If populations embrace the model enthusiastically, as pilot program results suggest they will, the increases could be substantially higher. Council member Zareth from Economic Affairs asked the obvious question. What prevents these voluntary partners from simply declaring independence once they become prosperous? Harper smiled. Simple economics, council member. Independence would cut them off from the galactic trade networks that make them prosperous. Commonwealth membership provides access to 17 star systems worth of markets, resources, and opportunities. Independence provides access to one system. Additionally, Dr. Wu added, the Commonwealth model makes Galaxian leadership genuinely beneficial to member worlds. Instead of seeing imperial control as oppression to escape, they see imperial coordination as a service they're willing to pay for. Pay for? Yes, council member. Member worlds would contribute percentage-based prosperity taxes rather than fixed tribute quotas. The more successful they become, the more they contribute, but the more they retain as well. Everyone benefits from everyone else's success. Supreme Commander Kethvar stood, his decision clearly forming. Admiral Zexathara, your assessment of human proposals? Supreme Commander, implementing human economic models has eliminated resistance across our pilot territories, while dramatically increasing their productivity. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our most optimistic projections. And you recommend full implementation? Supreme Commander, I recommend we embrace the opportunity to transform the Empire into something more prosperous than the Empire has ever been. Kethvar looked around the council chamber at faces reflecting centuries of military tradition. Council members, we face an unprecedented decision. We can continue our current model and face increasing rebellion costs and diminishing returns, or we can evolve into something entirely new. He paused, then continued with growing conviction. The humans have offered us partnership instead of resistance, prosperity instead of mere territory, and willing cooperation instead of grudging submission. They've demonstrated these benefits aren't theoretical, they work. The Supreme Commander turned to Harper. Secretary General Harper, the Imperial Council accepts your proposal. We hereby establish the Galaxian Commonwealth, beginning with Earth as our first voluntary member world. Harper bowed deeply. Supreme Commander, you've just made the most profitable decision in galactic history. As celebrations began both in the Council chamber and across Earth's communication networks, Admiral Zexathara realized she was witnessing something unprecedented. The transformation of galactic civilization itself from an empire built on conquest to a commonwealth built on cooperation, and it had all started with humans who responded to invasion threats by laughing and offering cookies. 6 months later, the Galaxian Commonwealth included 23 star systems, all voluntary members, all contributing to unprecedented galactic prosperity. The old empire's military fleets had been converted to exploration and trade vessels. Rebellion was a thing of the past because independence offered no advantages over membership. Admiral Zexathara, now Commonwealth Coordinator for Diplomatic Relations, often reflected on the remarkable fact that humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been technology or strategy or even courage. Their greatest weapon had been the simple recognition that cooperation creates more wealth than conquest, and friendship is more profitable than fear. The humans had conquered the galaxy not with force but with friendship, and everyone, conqueror and conquered alike, was better off for it.